Hi friends, welcome back. I'm Elaine and I'm living with autoimmune disease, and today I answer your questions. Thank you to everybody who left me questions. Thank you. Because you all had really good questions and a lot of things I never thought about sharing with you all. So let's get into them. A lot of questions about my diagnosis of scleroderma. The first question is, do you have Sine scleroderma? Because I don't see any skin changes on you. No, I have systemic sclerosis with a skin score by a scleroderma specialist. I know that it might look like I don't have a lot of skin changes on these videos, but I do. Those that are not familiar with what Sine scleroderma is, there is a rare subset of scleroderma patients that have Sine disease, which means no skin changes at all. I do have sclerodactyly on my hands. They're not as bad as a lot of other patients, and I realize that. I'm also 45 years old and I don't get Botox. So I don't have a lot of wrinkles as somebody that my age should have. If you aren't familiar with my scleroderma story, I'll leave that down below. But I was under the care of a rheumatologist when I was diagnosed with scleroderma, and I was put on CellCept pretty rapidly, which really saved my skin. The dermatologist and the rheumatologist, they worked together on my care, and they were both very happy with the way that my body responded to CellCept and the way that my skin started to loosen up after my diagnosis. I got another question about what do I do for HCQ tanning. For those that aren't familiar with the acronym HCQ, it stands for hydrochloroquine, which is like Plaquenil, and a lot of patients take that. So I have never been on hydrochloroquine. I have retina damage that was fixed by laser. My retina is already affected, so that removes Plaquenil and hydrochloroquine out of the mix for me. So another question was, how do you gain weight with scleroderma? I know a lot of patients deal with weight loss. In my instance, I'm on prednisone, so I have a problem with weight gain. You know, prednisone keeps me fluffy. I would see if your gastrointestinal doctor or specialist has a referral to a nutritionist that maybe they work with. And I think maybe a nutritionist could probably help you tackle how to gain weight while still managing the symptoms of your GI disease with scleroderma. My first chronic illness is malabsorption in my small intestine, and I almost died of malnutrition. So I really would suggest talking to your gastroenterologist and seeing if there's a nutritionist that you can work with. Another question, is it possible to maintain the skin changes with MMF? MMF is mycophenolate mofetil, which is also known as CellCept. I think I addressed this a little bit earlier. CellCept has worked wonders in my illness. I was already on methotrexate when I was diagnosed with scleroderma, so we switched over to CellCept, and my hands went from looking like they had been dipped in acid. They were red all the way to my wrists, and they cleared up within about 3 or 4 months. I did see good skin changes with CellCept. So another question along the lines of scleroderma is what to do for subcutaneous fat loss on the face where the veins are visible on your forehead. I don't have linear scleroderma, so that's not an issue that I deal with. I have systemic sclerosis, and my antibody is SCL70, if those that are wondering what my antibody is. I don't think I've ever really talked about pain management, but someone asked how many pain management consultants did I go through before I found the right one. So my pain is managed by my rheumatologist. My rheumatologist is the person that oversees any pain medication and oversees my health care. He's really the quarterback. I will say it took 2 tries. So he was a second opinion, and it took me 2 times to get to him. Somebody asked, have my treating physicians ever disagreed or argued over my treatment? If so, how heated did it get? And which doctor ultimately has the final word? So I have had disagreements over my medical care, but like I just said, my rheumatologist is the quarterback. So the person that has the final word is my rheumatologist. Because I'm in a teaching hospital, all my specialists work together. So they all share the electronic management system where your patient portal is. They all can see each other's notes. They all see all my testing. It's all in one place. And they all kind of report back to my rheumatologist. Now, the disagreement came, like I said, prednisone makes me fluffy and I wanted to lose some weight. And I went and saw a specialist for that, like a weight management specialist, an actual MD. And he suggested diet pills. And I know that I have cardiac issues with my scleroderma, and I reported back to my rheumatologist to let him know, and he was like, absolutely not, that's not. And that was the final word. There was also some testing that another specialist wanted to do, and I first didn't have the time to commit to the testing. But B, I didn't understand like how it was going to be beneficial to my long-term care. I discussed it with my rheumatologist, and actually my rheumatologist was like, yeah, I don't think you need that. So yeah, there are disagreements. For some of the specialists that are on the outside that we pull in, they might not understand the care of an autoimmune disease patient. But as far as my core specialists, they all work with my rheumatologist, and they all pretty much work with people that have autoimmune disease. So somebody asked, what's an advantage that those living with chronic illnesses have over others? And I like this question because there are advantages that sometimes we can't see. I think that we have more empathy towards people. I find myself more patient with older people. I obviously am not young myself. See them moving slower, I feel like I'm a little bit more patient than maybe somebody else that's my age, just because I know that there's days where I move slower. I can have empathy when someone at work is injured or sick. So we also learn to appreciate things more deeply than other people. We appreciate our good days because we know what bad days feel like. But I will add that I love that chronic illness has brought people into my life that I would have never met. And I have built lifelong friendships with people. Just being here on YouTube and meeting people from all over, people in India, people in Australia, that I would have never met, and sitting here in my living room in Los Angeles. So that's kind of an advantage. Another question about how can I walk? Is it difficult? And do I use a walking stick or any instrument when I walk? Walking is not always easy for me. I do have rheumatoid arthritis. I also have damage in my spine from degenerative disc disease. And so walking has been a challenge at times. I do use a cane from time to time when I need to. Actually, recently when I broke my foot, I had to use a cane. I have utilized epidural injections for my spine. I do have arthritis in my hips, so I do injections in my hips. I've gotten cortisone shots in my knee. So hopefully that explains a little bit of walking. Walking is not always easy. Someone said, if you could pinpoint the most important information to give a new patient, what would it be? I like this question. My mom has always told me today is not the rest of your life. And I think that is probably the best advice I could give a new patient. Beginning of your journey, it's the lowest and the hardest point that you'll be at. It's the time that you're trying to find a diagnosis, where you're trying to get physicians to believe you. If you do have a physician who believes you, you're trying to find the right treatment. And it's really the hardest point of your illness. And keep an open mind when it comes to treatment. Everybody's experiences with treatment and medication are their own. A lot of times people are quick to tell you everything wrong with drugs, but sometimes you don't hear all the good things about drugs. And that's why I tried to come on here and share with you my experiences with like methotrexate and infusions, because when I started those things, they seemed so scary to me because all I heard was bad stuff. I didn't hear any of the good stuff. Just remember, it will get better. I absolutely promise. It might not be perfect, but it will get better from that first day that you're diagnosed. So I had a couple questions about my Rituxan infusions. If you all don't know what Rituxan is, it is an infusion I get for rheumatoid arthritis and scleroderma. It treats both of them. Somebody asked me if I was able to take the shingles vaccine before I started Rituxan. I shared with you all in a video video before that I had to stop Rituxan because I got a side effect of getting shingles. It is a side effect that can happen. It doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't happen to everybody, but it does happen, and it happened to me. I was not able to get the shingles vaccine before I restarted. And somebody asked, are the side effects from Rituxan different than Actemra? Yes, they are two different medications, two different infusions. They target two different areas. Actemra is an IL-6, Rituxan is a B-cell therapy. So are the side effects different? Yes, absolutely. Actemra is a 1-hour infusion every month, where Rituxan is more of a commitment, at least for me. Rituxan runs about 7 to 8 hours for me, so I'm there all day. And you do one infusion, you wait 2 weeks, and you have to go back for the next. That is a huge chunk of commitment from me. My Rituxan's lasting about 4 months, so I will go back every 4 to 5 months to get Rituxan. So somebody asked me about traveling, and they asked about, with rheumatoid arthritis, do my outings make me extra tired? Yes. Traveling is fun and I love traveling. However, I do get more exhausted and more tired than I ever did before. Fatigue is one of the symptoms that has been more aggressive recently. And trying to travel when your joints hurt, trying to keep up with early mornings, sometimes things have to happen early. It's rough when you have rheumatoid arthritis, so yes. Someone said, with the different diseases that I have, do I ever get neuropathy? That's a great question. And if so, what do I do to deal with it? I did do the EMG and nerve conduction study. I've done it twice. I was diagnosed with small fiber neuropathy from a neurologist, and I take gabapentin. So it is a drug that treats neuropathy. And so I use medication for mine. And I got a lot of questions about my positive attitude. I am really flattered that you all think I have a positive attitude. I don't always see myself in that light, so thank you to those that said that. And I had 2 questions about that, actually. So one was, what is my motivation to keep going and have a positive attitude, and how do I keep a positive attitude, was the other question. I started a bucket list of things I want to do. And the bucket list is not like what I want to do before I die. I know that a lot of times that's what a bucket list for. Mine is what I want to do before illness progresses to the point that I can't do these things. Now, some of the things might be inachievable at this point. I think skydiving is probably out. I don't think my lungs are healthy enough probably to skydive. However, it's on my list. But I added simple little things too, like ordering Chinese food from delivery, like the way you see it in the movie, because the days that I have a high pain day and I want to do something on my bucket list, I can do something simple like that. So I think having that list of things I want to do keeps me motivated. The positive attitude also stems from, I meditate daily, which for me is faith-based. So for me, faith is a big part of my journey and my life. So I do meditate by praying in the morning and doing a daily devotional. I know meditation looks different for everybody. Even if your meditation looks like just stretching in the morning or breathing, I think that's a huge thing. Now, that being said, I want to say that I am not always positive. I don't want to mislead anybody. I allow myself to cry and pout and feel down also. And I think that is so important to people. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated, but you can't stay there. You have to come out of it. And I allow myself to grieve. My husband allows me to grieve. My mom allows me to grieve. And we grieve and we get up and we move on. I mean, you can't just magically make everything better by having a positive attitude. It sucks. It really does. But I think allow yourself to grieve too. Just don't stay there. Somebody was asking when I was diagnosed what my first symptoms were. So I have 2 stories. I have rheumatoid arthritis and I have systemic sclerosis. I have made videos on both of those. I will leave down below. But for rheumatoid arthritis, my first symptom was a neck ache, sore throat, and carpal tunnel hands, which weren't carpal tunnel hands. They were totally rheumatoid arthritis, and bothersome feet. And for scleroderma, my first symptoms of scleroderma were shortness of breath, Raynaud's. Like I said, my hands look like they were dipped in acid. They were red just from my wrist down. I mean, literally look like someone just dipped them in acid. And someone asked, what has changed in my lifestyle since my diagnosis? Spontaneity. I can't be spontaneous anymore. I never know what one day is going to be to the next. And so I can't be spontaneous. And even sometimes when I plan stuff, it doesn't happen. So I have to be more flexible. But I miss being spontaneous. They asked when I travel how I make it through long days, whether it be walking through shops at like Vegas or waiting in lines at Disney. Vegas and Disney are both my happy place. And Vegas is perfect because I have a lot of insomnia because of autoimmune disease, and Vegas never sleeps. So how do I make it through Vegas? I don't wake up early. I sleep in. Room service brings you coffee if you want it, so that's perfect. I take a lot of breaks when we're walking Vegas. I'm not gonna lie, we utilize Lyft or Uber, and sometimes it's just to Uber or Lyft to one the casinos like further away, and then work our way back walking. And we take time, we do gamble, so we sit down. You know, I'm not really a slot player. I play blackjack and craps. But most of the time, if I'm pretty tired, I will sit down at a slot machine, and that is usually when I win. I was telling my rheumatologist, it always works out in Vegas that when my joints start hurting and I sit down somehow, I don't know if it's like the universe rewarding me, but we also take breaks for prednisone. The lines at Disney, I utilize a DAS, disability assistance service. I made a video about doing Disney with a chronic illness or disability before, so I'll leave that down below in case you haven't seen that. It's pretty much my tips and tricks. Somebody also asked me to talk a little bit about Raynaud's. February is Raynaud's Awareness Month. Raynaud's was one of my first symptoms of scleroderma. I didn't know that your lips could turn blue. So I am going to actually do a whole video about Raynaud's for you all. I think that would be kind of cool to talk about, especially for Awareness Month. And the last question was such a fun question. I saved it for last. Someone asked, ninja or pirate? Well, in daily life, ninja. But at Disney, pirate. Always pirate. That was all the questions. I had so much fun answering them. Hopefully you all had fun listening to my answers. I appreciate, again, everybody that left a question. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want more of these videos or you have any more questions, leave me a comment down below. Or even if there's topics that you guys want me to talk about, leave them down below. If you have not yet subscribed and you would like to come and be a part of my adventure, I would love to have you. The more friends, the more better. And until my next adventure, go have yours.